Greetings, friends, and welcome to my Orange Friday reflection time. Sunday will be the second Sunday of the Easter season. Yes, Easter is a season, a week of weeks, 7 Sundays in this most important season of the church year. And yes, the second Sunday of Easter is always the story of the first Easter night and what happens the following week from John's Gospel. We always read the 20th chapter of John's Gospel to hear this story. John tells us that on that first Easter night, the disciples were gathered together behind closed, locked doors because they were afraid. Well, apparently not all of the disciples were there. Thomas was missing from the group. I don't know. I wonder where he was. Did he miss the text, the email, the Snapchat, the Instagram, the whatever? Was he gathered in fear in another place in his own grief? Was he just going about his normal business? I don't know. But Jesus appears to the other 10 disciples and brings them peace. He shows up to demonstrate that he is alive. He is risen. Now back to the Thomas part. The others find him. And they tell him about this incredible news, this great news that Jesus is alive, that he is risen, that death has not won. And Thomas does what Thomas is most famous for. He questions their sanity. He doubts their words. John's account continues the following week. That would be the next Sunday, our second Sunday of the Easter season. And John is there. They're all together again behind shut doors. Not locked, we're told, but shut. That's an important piece as well because it's still a sense of anxiety and fear. And Jesus is in the midst of them. He calls Thomas forward and says, "See the nail holes, touch them." And to realize that this Jesus is the real deal, not a ghost. And here's the most important moment for me. Thomas proclaims, "My Lord and my God." It's Thomas who says these mighty words first. It's Thomas, not Peter, the rock on which Jesus will build the church, not James or John, the sons of Zebedee, whose mother wanted them to be in the most important places, the right and left hand of God, of Jesus, positions of power. No, it's Thomas, the one with the last name Doubter, who utters that proclamation of Jesus' true status. Thomas is most fully developed in John's narrative. It's here where we see his willingness to dig deeper. Thomas says to Jesus on one occasion, "We don't know where you're going. How do we know the way?" To which Jesus responds with those famous words, "I am the truth, the way, the truth, and the light." Thomas is the bold one who, when Jesus is speaking of going to see Lazarus, who is already in the tomb, says, "Let us go with him, that we may also die with him." I love that Thomas was willing to ask the obvious and the deep questions. It's not a sign of doubt, but rather of depth. He had an inquiring faith. He was not embarrassed to ask those questions or show that he didn't know it all. His inquiring mind shows boldness. And did you notice how Jesus answered those questions? "I am the way, the truth, and the life." Or in Sunday's gospel text, "Have you believed because you have seen me?" There's no shaming or belittling by Jesus. Good teachers do that. To me, that is what faith is all about. We do not have to have all the answers. We must ask questions. I have learned that we should not be afraid to ask those questions either. As a wise mentor once told me, there are no dumb questions, just stupid answers. I celebrate this true disciple because I feel more like Thomas more than any other disciple. Sure, my faith is strong, and I would love to think that I am the rock to those around me. I would love to think that others see that strength. But I also know that I'm equally comfortable raising questions about my faith. There have been those moments of my life when the Thomas side of me has been more visible. I questioned God's plan for the summer after I graduated from seminary. By the fall, all of my friends were getting calls to serve congregations, and I was being denied. The bishop where I wanted to go finally told me there are no calls available in this synod, and he suggested another synod. That was equally unfruitful. Then Joan and I moved in with her folks in Ohio, and as fall became winter, I was called to save souls in a different way, lifeguarding at an apartment complex pool, indoors, fortunately, all the while searching for a congregation that wanted me to be their pastor. I spent many lonely nights at the pool talking with God, well, more like arguing with God. This was not what I signed up for, was my frequent rant. God patiently listened to my lament. I know I doubted that I would ever be ordained. Like Thomas, whose legend has it he went far from his homeland to India to proclaim the gospel, I too moved almost 2,000 miles from my homeland in New York to western Nebraska to begin my journey as a pastor. We both doubted, and we both went forth. Listening to the faith stories of others over the years, I have heard those same honest questions and doubts. Why is this happening to me? Why now? This is not what I signed up for. And please, who signed up for this chaos today? Who signed up to be sheltered behind closed doors? I pray that you are not living in fear as the disciples were on that first Easter Sunday. But if you are, hear the same words that the disciples heard. Peace be with you. Jesus comes to bring us peace, no matter what our condition. Fear, doubt, anxiety, worry. Jesus comes with peace. Jesus comes with calmness. Jesus comes to tell us he is risen. He is risen indeed. And for that reason, I look forward to seeing you again on Sunday as we gather for worship. Remember, keep washing those hands 20 seconds at a time, a couple of times a day. Stay home if you're sick. Love one another. Practice the important social distancing. And of course, be careful out there. And since it's Orange Friday, go Giants and Red River Cats, because I have no doubt that I will see baseball games again sometime, hopefully soon.